Well, first I greet you with great excitement. We have a new bishop, which is the big news of our diocese. I had the pleasure of being at the liturgies. Hopefully many of you or some of you got to see the liturgies by live stream on television. All those liturgies are still on the diocesan website if you would care to watch them. They're kind of long, but a lot shorter than a football game. The Bishop Peter, seems like a wonderful, wonderful man. He left a very, very great impression on many of us. I had a small encounter that I had with him. First of all, he's like 9 feet tall with his mitre on. He's a very kind man. I was one of the MCs, the guys that walk around and tell people what to do in Mass. And we had a rehearsal with the bishop, and we had our seminarians there. This was on Tuesday morning. None of us had met the bishop. The bishop came in, and the other vocation director, Father Jerry, began to introduce the bishop to the seminarians. Bishop, I'd like to introduce you to the seminarians. And as he would go to say their name, for example, like Jeff Day, who's one of our seminarians, and the bishop would interrupt. Jeff Day, nice to meet you. He had already memorized and learned all the seminarians' names from the website director. He knew all the priests' names already. Very impressive. And during receptions, him and the Archbishop of Portland, Bishop Sample, just working the crowd and talking. It was wonderful. One of the things that also, not that I'm just going to preach about the bishop the whole time, but for those of you who are pet lovers, Bishop Peter's had a dog for a long time. And in coming to Idaho, he decided to give away his dog. A priest was telling me this. I didn't have this conversation. Bill Bishop, why did you get rid of your dog? Idaho is a very large diocese, and I can't take care of a dog if I'm going to be going to all of those parishes all the time. Isn't that wonderful? Willing to set aside his own wishes and desires so he can be present to the people. So my guess is he's going to be coming around soon. So, isn't that great? Just that kind of not looking to his own needs and desires, but to that of our church. So keep him in prayer. It was very, very exciting. Shifting gears now, we are in the 4th week of Advent. We have a few days before Christmas. And I think most of us, if we think of our 2 feet, one foot is planted in Advent, and we have another foot already firmly planted in Christmas. And I think most of us have probably 25% or maybe 12% of our weight on Advent, and the rest of it on Christmas already. Right? We've been decorating, we're shopping, food, getting ready for guests and all that. And that's fine. It's just what we do. We're leaning towards Christmas. Well, today I want for a second just to get us all to shift back a little bit to Advent. Put a little bit of weight back on that Advent foot. And here's what I want us to focus on: forgiveness. Advent, like Lent, are times of preparing for a great feast. And one of the ways in which we prepare is that we call to mind the great theme of reconciliation. Many of you have gone to the reconciliation services and gone to confession. That's wonderful. What I want to talk about to you, though, is just the idea of forgiveness and personal forgiveness in each of our lives. Christmas, God becoming human being. God became a man to do what? In Matthew's Gospel, in the very first chapter, it says, "Behold, you shall bear a son and name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins." Christ came to be the forgiveness bearer and to reveal the love of the Father to us all. So brothers and sisters, forgiveness is at the heart of Christmas. It's at the heart of what it means to be a Christian. Are there people in your lives that need your forgiveness? Jesus was very clear in the only prayer that he ever taught us, the Lord's Prayer. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Brothers and sisters, this is the hard part of Christianity. Christianity is a difficult religion because it touches the very real things of our lives and relationships, and forgiveness is at the heart of it. It is not easy to do this, but it is what we are commanded and asked by Christ to do, to be a people of forgiveness. I want to share with you two stories of profound forgiveness. One is Saint Maria Goretti. Maria Goretti has a beautiful, tragic story. Maria Goretti was a saint not that long ago in Italy, a beautiful young girl. And as she was walking along, a very evil man pursued her and wanting to do her harm, right? Was going to sexually abuse her. She refused and fought, and in the process, he murdered her. As she was in the hospital dying, she forgave him. Amazing. But that's, for me, not even the heart of the story. The man, the murderer, was convicted and sent to prison. While he was in prison, Maria Goretti, in a dream, in a prayerful vision, came to him and also extended forgiveness to him. He had a profound conversion in prison. When he was released from prison years later, he went to find Marie's mother to ask for forgiveness. Mothers, could you imagine this? They had not spoken. He went to the mother's house early in the morning. She was at Mass, so he went to the church to meet her. She comes out of the doors, and there he is. Wasn't expecting to see him. He said, "I have come to ask for your forgiveness." She couldn't say a word in that moment. I imagine most of us probably couldn't either. All she did was motion for him to come follow her. And she brought him to her house. Still unable to speak to him, she did the most loving thing she could do. She cooked him breakfast. Christ's most profound things happened around a table, and he prepared breakfast for the man who murdered his daughter. They had a profound reconciliation. This man was present at the canonization of Maria Goretti in St. Peter's Square and was one of the great testifiers to her saintlyhood. Forgiveness is not easy, but it's beautiful and profound and real. The second story, much more familiar to us, is John Paul II. When he was shot, the attempted assassination of John Paul II. I'm sure most of us know about that. In St. Peter's Square, a man shot him, point-blank range. He nearly died, severely wounding him, wounds that would affect him the rest of his life. And the moment John Paul was able to be released from the hospital, the first thing he did, as we know, was go to that prison cell to spend time with his attempted murderer, offered forgiveness to him, and tried to reconcile him to God. Two stories of reconciliation. What's your story? All of us, I think, we just have to step back and think a little bit. We know in our lives and around us how much hurt and pain and resentment and anger is in our lives. Oftentimes with our own families. This is an opportunity for us to forgive, to be Christians. It's not easy. If you want to have a wonderful Christmas, in the full meaning of what Christmas is, seek to be reconciled with someone who needs that in your life. What reconciliation does, I'm going to use a little prop here. We're going to pretend, use your imagination, that this is an offense. Somebody's hurt you. They've said something, they've done something, or as often in my case, failed to do something, right? And there it is. Whenever I look at the person who has hurt me, I see the offense. That offense is always between us. And I look at that person through the lens of this offense. That's what we do, don't we? That's why every time we see that person, it's like, urgh. What forgiveness is taking this offense and removing it from our sight so that I can now look at this person no longer through the lens of their sin, but freely. There's nothing there now. There's no judgment. The offense is gone. That I in no way pretend that this did not happen. Forgiveness is not saying somehow pretending that it didn't take place. Au contraire. We know it's there. But despite of that, we're willing to put it outside of this relationship. That's forgiveness. And that person comes back into our lives, and this begins to sneak back in, doesn't it? It sneaks back in. We can see it. There it is. Remember Jesus with Peter, how many times do we forgive? 7 times? 7 times, 77. So we've got to keep putting it back so I can engage this person freely. As St. Paul tells us, for freedom, Christ has set you free. What does that mean? That all of us deserve to have that freedom of encounter. I hope people don't engage me through all of my mistakes. That every time they see me, they're looking at me through all of my myriad of mistakes and the things that I've said and done. That clouds our vision. Let's don't do that. Let's forgive. Let's be like Maria Goretti and her mother, like John Paul II. And make no bones about it, it won't be easy. But it is what Christianity and Christmas is fundamentally about. So if you want to have a wonderful Christmas, prepare yourself. Put your foot back in Advent. Seek to forgive, even just one person, and look how your Christmas will be different. And so I wish you a very blessed and a very holy Christmas this year.